to get to in this video is being able to extend grace and being able to remove judgment when it comes to the situation. I know that the lady cursed us out. I think I have a lot to say on this particular topic. And the reason being is because I feel like I can relate a lot to Dear Jaxn. I feel like a lot of women can relate to her mindset that she had at that time, as well as her insecurities. And this is why I wanted to talk about this, because like this whole thing like hit me in my feels. This whole thing with Dear hit me in my feelings. Hey everyone, it's Bree. Welcome back to my channel. I'm back in another video, and I am here to talk about the interview that just happened with Dear Jaxn. I think I'm pronouncing her name correctly. If I'm not, my apologies. But for those of y'all who don't know, Dear Jaxn was the wife of Derrick Jaxn. And if you don't know about that whole debacle, I'm sure y'all can find some videos that go into detail about that whole mess up situation. But basically, Derrick Jaxn was a relationship guru on social media that a lot of people followed for advice. A lot of people have compared him to Steve Harvey, not personality wise, but in terms of what he does. He is someone that would give a lot of advice to women on how to get a man, essentially. And this was his thing for several years. But then it came out that he was cheating on his wife, which doesn't exactly help your brand of being a relationship guru. And the whole thing was just embarrassing. The way that he handled it was embarrassing, and he embarrassed his wife. And in the midst of everything that she was going through and dealing with that mess, she was also not only embarrassed by her husband, but also she did some things that people would argue were also kind of very embarrassing. She didn't really know how to handle, you know, the public scrutiny that she was dealing with, you know, her husband cheating on her. And she took it out on everybody, right? And then people started to turn on her, and it was a whole thing. But essentially, it was announced that they were getting a divorce. And one thing that just really threw me for a loop was the fact that he was the one that filed. We'll get to that later. And then next thing you know, like, it just was radio silence from her, at least. I don't know really what he's been doing. I wasn't checking for him before all that mess went down, so don't really know what's going on with him and his content lately. But his wife, ex-wife, recently sat down and did an interview with a podcast that I don't typically watch, the Dear Wifey Podcast, but I have watched clips from it. And from the clips that I've seen so far from that podcast, I would say it's like actually a really good podcast. I might start actually checking it out more. I think the last video that I watched from them, or the last interview that I watched, is when he interviewed Kadeen and Deval Ellis. I literally love them. And so I'll be watching, you know, any video with them in it. And then of course the infamous clip where, I forgot what her name is, but it's this other social media content creator. She was on his podcast as well, and then her wig had just fell off in the middle of the podcast. I feel like that's where a lot of the traction came from for that podcast, but now they're getting even more eyes because of this interview that he did with Dear Jaxn. And the reason why I wanted to discuss this, because I wasn't going to discuss it at first. I mean, it was something that interests me, but I wasn't going to cover it on the channel. But then I thought about it, and after like watching it and, you know, seeing the clips, I'm like, you know, I think I have a lot to say on this particular topic. And the reason being is because I feel like I can relate a lot to Dear Jaxn. Now, I'm not saying that I've been through what she's been through. I want to make that very clear in the first couple of minutes of this video. I am not in any way, shape, or form saying that I have been cheated on by someone that slept with 100 different women. I'm not saying that. Luckily, I can say that I've actually never been cheated on. I'm not saying I can relate to her specific situation, because her situation is very unique and it's very complex, and I'm sure a lot of people can't necessarily relate to the specifics of what she went through, but I feel like a lot of women can relate to her mindset that she had at that time, as well as her insecurities, and that is what I can relate to. So in this interview, Denia had revealed a couple of things in this interview. For one, as I just said, she revealed that Derrick Jaxn had slept with over or nearly 100 women while they were together. She revealed that she knew these other women's bodies more than she knew her own. She revealed that she was jealous of their daughter because her daughter resembled more of what Derrick Jaxn, I don't want to say attracted to, but more of what he liked, more of what he favored. She expressed being jealous of their own daughter because of that. And what I really want to get to in this video is being able to extend grace and being able to remove judgment when it comes to this situation. I know that the lady cursed us out. I've seen a lot of people talking about that, how, she had cursed everybody out online that was upset with her and making fun of her. And, the judgment that people placed on her relationship with him. And that, I think that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. And I understand why some people might be reluctant to hear her story and to give her grace because of how she acted online. But I think for most of us that are able to kind of look at things from a deeper perspective, she wasn't really well mentally. And I think that she kind of admits this in her interview. Like, there was a lot going on with her around that time. And a lot of the times when you are in the midst of something like that, it can cause you to not be yourself. And I can imagine how being in that type of relationship would cause you to not think clearly, to act in a certain way, especially when you're being lied to and manipulated by someone. And so I kind of wanted to dive into some of the more broader things that she covered in this interview that I feel like I can speak to and that I can relate to. One of the things that really stuck out to me, right, was the mindset that she had in regards to her relationship, and how she had this mentality of, I have to make it work no matter what. I can relate to this. That is the mindset that I had in my last relationship. Now, I've never been married. But I've talked about how I've always had like a marriage like mentality, in terms of, I am not someone that is willing to give up on a relationship easily. I'm someone that's very loyal, and I'm someone that really gives relationships my all. I know nowadays people don't really see relationships like that. A lot of people are willing to quit and throw in the towel. People don't put a lot of energy and effort into something, and I feel like a lot of times when people are faced with a lot of challenges, it's easier for them to quit on the relationship as opposed to still trying to make it work. And I've just never been that type of person. Granted, that has probably changed now, but when I was in that relationship, that was my mindset. I'm like, I have to make this work. Now, obviously, everyone has their deal breakers, right? And had I been cheated on, or had I been abused, then yeah, of course, I would not have stayed in that relationship. For some reason, I just had that mindset of like, oh, like, as long as it's not those two things, we can work through it. And so it caused me to put up with a lot, to be overly forgiving, to look over certain things, because I just wanted the relationship to work that badly. And the problem with doing that is, like I said, you tend to overlook things that you shouldn't overlook. You tend to miss red flags that were probably there, the whole time. But also, too, it causes you to, put up with things that you normally wouldn't have. To where when you're finally out of that situation and you look back, you're just like, how did I let those things happen? Like, how did I even let those things slide? And I have those moments now where I'm just like, why did I allow myself to put up with this behavior for as long as I did. And another thing that I could relate to with her in this interview is, her insecurities and how she felt like she needed to change herself to feel accepted and wanted by her partner. This was something that I struggled with a lot in my last relationship, where I felt like I needed to change myself to make them happy. It felt like they just were never satisfied or pleased with me and who I was, and it just felt like they constantly wanted me to change. And at the time, I tried to justify it, because I'm like, they weren't necessarily negative changes that needed to be made. But I throughout our entire relationship, I felt like I had to constantly change things and almost prove myself to that person. And looking back, it definitely took a toll on me for a while, because it just felt like they were always looking for a reason to, leave or get out of the relationship. Again, with me having this marriage like mentality, I made it a point to, keep the communication open. And if there were things that, my partner didn't feel satisfied with, or, if he wasn't happy or his needs weren't being met, or whatever the case may be, I would give him the space to tell me that, and I would accept that and receive that, and whatever it was that he wasn't pleased with, I would put energy into trying to change that. But the problem with doing that, as well as the whole thing of like, doing whatever it takes to keep a relationship to work, although those things can help in some regards, if you're the only person that's doing that, it's only gonna cause you more harm. Because, and again, I don't know their relationship dynamic in detail. We're all assuming based off of what Derrick Jaxn has presented himself to be online. Like, he has just made himself look really, really bad, just like a terrible narcissist and just horrible human being, right? Just from what he has shown. I mean, even his like videos of him addressing the whole situation and him talking in third person, like he just comes across as a weirdo. He comes across as someone that doesn't take accountability. And so I feel like it's, pretty easy to assume that he did not put his best foot forward in this relationship that he was with Denia. But it gets a little exhausting because I feel like a lot of times with women, like, we are always willing to change ourselves, to bend over backwards to try to salvage a relationship, but rarely do you see men doing the same thing. And that was something that I experienced as well, where it was like I was putting in a lot of effort. I was changing myself. I was allowing certain things to happen. But he wasn't really doing the same thing. It's like when I needed him to change in certain areas, when I needed more from him, I didn't get that. I just got excuses or him trying to justify certain things. And it's like I wasn't getting that same level of effort from him. And it's just like, you want me to make all these changes and do all this stuff, and then it's like, but what are you doing in return? And even to the point of, wanting to feel accepted and wanted by that person. Again, I can relate to that as well. Looking back, I, could see how I had spent a lot of our relationship wanting to feel wanted, which is crazy because it's like, when you first start dating a person, that's how they get you, right? It's like they make you feel wanted. They make you feel as though that they want to be with you. But then you're in the relationship and it's like you're dealing with a lot of pushback. You're not really getting a whole lot from them, whether it's just love, affection, attention. And, I can imagine that maybe Denia was, being deprived of that because he was getting that from other women. And, for me, I can relate to that where, I spent a lot of time feeling unwanted and just feeling like they didn't even want me in their presence. Like, they didn't really want me around. Or even when you start to notice that, like, intimacy is off, like, they don't even really seem like they want to be, like, touchy with you anymore. Like, it really, like, it really messes with your mental, and it really makes you extremely insecure when you feel like the person that you're in a relationship with doesn't want to be there. And she spoke about too how she knew other women's bodies more than her own. And when she expanded on that point, she was more so referring to how she would see the women that he was cheating on her with, and she would try to emulate things in those women that she didn't have herself to try and entice her husband and to keep interest in her, which I think, again, it's just really, really sad that she felt like she even had to do that. And even though I can't relate to that specific scenario, I will say that, in the ending of my last relationship, I did start to peep that he was starting to entertain a lot of other women afterwards, and I started to do the comparison game. I started to look at how they looked, what their personalities were, because again, when you're already in that mindset of I wasn't enough for this person, you do start to compare, and you do start to look at who he's talking to, and you start to compare and go, okay, what does this woman have that I don't? What was it that I was lacking that made him not want me anymore? And that was something that I struggled with for literally months, where I'm just like, okay, what do they have that I don't? And I started to even beat myself up to say, like, dang, maybe if I would have did this more, or maybe if I would have looked like this, like maybe he would have, or maybe if my personality was different, maybe he would have stuck around. Like, you start to get into that mindset of comparing yourself, because you're just like, what more could I have done to keep them around? It's like they wanted me at some point. And I think that's the hard part, is like when they started out wanting you and liking you for you and making you feel wanted and accepted. And then when you notice that after a while it starts to change, and they start to treat you differently and look at you differently, and then you see the type of women that he's now talking to and hanging out with and entertaining, it kind of makes you look at yourself like, dang, so I'm really not what you want anymore. But why? From the outside looking in, right? From the outside looking in, of course it's easy to judge and say like, oh, I would have never did all that, for a man. I would have never stooped that low. I would have never, looked at myself in that way. But you would be surprised the mind games and like how much that really does mess with your mental. It affects your capabilities to, look at that and go, oh, this is crazy. Like, I don't deserve that. I don't deserve to be put through that. It's hard when you're in it, and it's hard when you're literally in love with that person. And I can only imagine how much more difficult it was for her, because she's married to this man, been with him for several years. They have kids together. And then you also add the religious aspect to it as well. A lot of women who identify as Christian, they are typically led to believe that they're supposed to put up with crap in their marriage, and they're supposed to just stick it out because, it's against the Bible to, end a marriage, and you have to stick it out and you have to put up with, all of that. A lot of Christian women are led to believe that. And so I can imagine that was another element of why she felt like she was almost stuck. And, and probably up until that point, she still, for some reason, probably thought that Derrick was the man that God put into her life, so she had to make it work no matter what. And so, yeah, I could just imagine how much more difficult it is when you're in it, and to try and convince yourself to leave. And another thing that I could relate to her on as well is, again, how determined she was to make it work until she was forced out of it. Again, she is not the one that filed. She's not the one that filed for divorce. He filed for divorce. It literally took for him to end things for her to leave. And, for me, like, that was kind of like a similar thing that I went through, where it literally wasn't until he hopped up into another relationship that I was forced to not be in his life anymore. It literally took for the universe to force him out of my life for me to remove him, because up until that point, again, I was being dumb. And again, like this is something that I'm like currently dealing with, because I look back and I try not to blame myself, because I know it's not my fault, and I know that I didn't deserve a lot of, what I dealt with and how I got treated. I find myself getting upset and like angry with myself and feeling like, man, how like dumb with, like, I just feel stupid, right? Like you feel stupid that you even allow certain things, that you stick around for as long as you do, that you remain as loyal as you do. And that's something that I've really been battling with. I'm like, I'm literally a dumbass. Cause why did I sit up here and put up with what I went through, in my relationship? Why did I sit here and forgive and forgive and forgive and help this person work through their issues? Then why did I sit here and try to continue a friendship with this person in hopes that we would get back together? Because I was being lied to about that as well. Why did I sit here thinking like, oh, like, he's still, there's still feelings there? And again, these weren't things that I just came up with in my head. These were also things that, he was kind of leading me on and telling me for a long time. It's like, why did I sit there and just believe all these things that he was telling me? And it's like, how could I sit here and not pick up on the fact that he was lying to me? It's like you sit there and then you start to almost question yourself and your sanity, where you're just like, how did I allow this to happen? How did I even allow it to get to this point? I just can't help but think like, at no point did I think, okay, maybe I should end this. Maybe I should cut this person off. Maybe, I don't deserve to be treated like this. And it literally wasn't until I was forced to let that person go, because I was once again lied to and led on to believe one thing. And then I woke up one day and there was someone completely new. And now I have no choice but to cut this person off, because they're with someone new. And I was blindsided by that. And now I have to somehow be okay with that and move on, even though this person had been an active part of my life for the past 2 years. I now have to somehow just completely remove that person from my life with no actual time to process it or grieve it or to handle it properly. I'm not even given a proper heads up or common courtesy, because I'm being told information from a third party, and it's a lot. And so again, I can understand, like, for Denia, if she had no heads up about this divorce coming, like, how she had to handle that. Like, she's probably sitting there like, dang, I done sat up here, went through counseling, dealt with your cheating, accepted your cheating. I sat up here and dealt with all of this just for you to leave me. Like, it fucks you up. It literally messes with you, and it takes a toll on your mental health and your self-esteem, because you're just like, what, like, where did I go wrong? It's like, you put me through all of this, you lied, you used me, you manipulated me, and now you just get to go on and live the rest of your happy life while I have to sit here and deal with the pain and suffering from what you put me through. Like, you had the audacity to cut things off with me, even though I sat here and was loyal to you and did everything in my power to make you happy, and this is what I get in return. That's why, like, I see it now. I see why there is this wave of women hating men. And listen, I've never really been on the man bashing hate train, but lately, I'm not gonna lie, I'm like, I see why. I see what all these women are talking about now, about men just being liars and users and manipulators and just not caring about anybody but themselves. I see exactly what women are talking about now. I see why women are going online and going on podcasts and bashing men. I see why now. And listen, I will always say that it's not all men. All men are not like this. All men are not trash. But it is a big chunk of y'all. And it's so unfortunate, because it's like you want to believe that not all men are like this. But then it's like they just end up being like every other trash guy, and it's just like I don't even know if I can trust men like that again, because it's just like, for me to have even been able to allow somebody like that to treat me like that, to lie to me like that, it's scary. And for me, and again, I don't know the history, like the deep history between, her and Derrick Jaxn, but love bombing is a thing. Love bombing is a thing, and it's a dangerous thing, because one thing that I really don't like, especially, when men are, kind of bashing women, is a lot of men like to bring up the fact that, like, oh, maybe y'all shouldn't deal with trash dudes. Maybe if y'all would pick better men, then y'all wouldn't have these problems. 9 times out of 10, the man doesn't start off being shitty to you. That's not how that works. Men don't just start off treating you like shit. The problem is that men will start out being everything you wanted them to be and more, which is where the manipulation comes in. They'll start out being this amazing person. They'll be compassionate. They'll be kind. They'll do a bunch of favors for you. Like, they literally will put in that effort in the beginning to get you, and to get you, like, to get your feelings involved with them and to make you like them more. But once they realize that you're in it, once they have you, once they realize that you're in it deep, then that's when they start to peel back those layers. And I can imagine that might have been a situation that Denia was in with Derrick Jaxn. I'm sure Derrick treated her like a queen in the beginning. And that's the problem with love bombing, is you can't sit there and present yourself in a way that is not who you are at all. Have that person fall in love with that fake persona that you put on to get with them, and then a couple months down the road, all of that just fades away. Now, again, I'm not saying that you're always going to have that initial, like, lovey-dovey phase, because I know that does die out at some point. But when you go from being, again, a super compassionate, attentive, kind, soft, like, when you go from being all of that to just flat out being an asshole, that's not cool. And it's like, if you know that's you, if you know that you're just naturally an asshole, you're not someone that, gives someone your undivided attention, you're not someone that likes to take care of their partner, you're not someone that enjoys having somebody around a lot, you're someone that likes to kind of, have your own personal space. If you know that you're like that, why would you present yourself in a way that's the opposite? Because you're just setting unrealistic expectations, and you're setting that person up to get hurt. If you know that you don't have a good attention span, and you know that you are not a good listener, and you know that you have a toxic way of communicating, and you like to yell at people during arguments and all of that, those are things that you need to be upfront about, because you springing all of that on somebody when you presented yourself to be a completely opposite way, it fucks with them, because they're just like, where did that come from? Like, was it me that caused this? Like, you weren't like this in the beginning. Like, am I the reason why you're acting this way? Like, where did this come from? And then it's like, at that point, your feelings are just, your feelings are so deep in it that it's hard to just, like, to separate the two. It's hard to separate how you feel versus, how you're being treated. And then you want to believe that it's just a little hiccup and that it'll get better and it's something that y'all can work on. But you kind of have to fall into that pattern of, like, constantly overlooking things and being forgiving, because it's like, oh, well, I know who they are at their core, and I know they haven't always been this way. And so, I'm sure that, they won't always be like this. And then you come to find out they were like that the whole time. They were just hiding it. And that's why, for me, I'm cool. I'm cool. I'm cool off dating. I'm cool off men. I want no parts. Because the fact that someone could do that, the fact that men are so good at lying and being a completely different person in the beginning, and being able to hide who they really truly are for as long as they do, that scares me. And I don't want no parts. I really don't. I really don't want any parts. And again, I'm looking at myself like, how did I not pick up on these things? Or how did I allow these things to happen to where I'm like, do I even trust myself to pick the right person at this point? Because I thought I have picked somebody great. I thought I was able to pick up on red flags, but I guess not. And it's like, again, like when you've been lied to so much, like literally so much for so long, it really does ruin, trust, because it's just like, I don't want to get lied to like that again. And I don't want to be taken advantage of like this again. And so, yeah, I know for me, I'm in a space where I really am just focused on me and my career and, building wealth. And that is all I care about. I've completely removed marriage as a goal, because I talked about that before, about how I had a goal of getting married someday. Completely took that out of my head. Like, like this, like, and this is why I wanted to talk about this, because, like, this whole thing, like, hit me in my feels. This whole thing with Denia hit me in my feelings, because that just that mindset and, like, what she went through, like, I can see it, and I can really resonate with it. And I know that she is probably now in this phase of healing and focusing on herself. And, people have noticed that she actually, she looks a little bit better. Like she looks like she looks like herself. Like, she looks like her true, authentic self. You can see that she's becoming more comfortable in, in her own body and her own self-confidence, right? I think a lot of people are starting to notice that in her. And, I wish her the best, in this new chapter of her life. I guess she already looks, I mean, again, she probably is still hurting, is still grieving that relationship, but, this next chapter that she's going to have in her life without having to deal with a cheating, manipulating husband, I'm sure is going to be, way better for her. And for me, I'm in the same boat. I'm literally just focusing on myself. I attempted to, like, get back out there and start talking to other guys, but I just don't have it in me to do it right now. Like, when I tell you, I really, really just, I don't particularly care for men like that right now. Like I said, it's not all of y'all. Like, I think it's more so on the romantic front. When guys try to talk to me normally, I don't feel that way. It's just that when, men try to pursue me romantically, I immediately get the ick. I'm like, don't talk to me. I'm okay. Like, because also too, like, I'm just in this phase where I just feel like every man that talks to me is lying. Like, I just think that now. Every time a man tries to talk to me, now I think, like, okay, all this is fake. Like, all this stuff in the beginning is going to be fake. I'm not really going to know who this person is until, like, months from now when they completely flip the script. Like, I don't trust men. I don't trust men. I have no interest in really giving men a chance, giving love a chance. Like, and again, it goes deeper. Like, I've only touched on a few surface level things for this video. It really goes way deeper than that in regards to why I just am not interested in dating anymore. Like, I'm just, it's a whole thing. And maybe one day I'll change my mind, but right now, like, I'm cool. Like, if this is what I have to go through, like, I have to deal with men lying and playing with my feelings and using me until they find somebody else, I'm cool. I'm really cool. If I have to deal with constantly feeling unwanted and rejected and not accepted for who I am, I'm okay. I'm okay. I will focus on me. I will continue to do me. And that's it. And hopefully, if and when someone else comes along, not only will they accept me for me and make me feel like I am enough, but they'll also continue to put forth that effort, and they'll be who they say they are up front, and they'll maintain that for an extended period of time, as opposed to lying just to, get with me and then not even putting forth the effort to keep me. I don't want to ever experience that again. And I'm just, because I know that, with love and dating, it's a risk. But right now, And even in the near future, I just don't see myself taking that risk again. It's just not something that I want to put my energy towards. I just don't like, because people say that, like, oh, you have to try to take the risk. I don't want to. Like, I just don't want to. I don't want to put forth energy. I don't want to put myself out there, because again, I've just been in this mode of trying to prove myself to people. I've been doing it since I was literally a little girl, where I just find myself in these relationships and these friendships where I am proving myself and I'm trying to be accepted by people that I care about and that I value. It's like, please accept me for me. If I got to change these things about me, then I'll do it. And I'm tired. I'm tired of putting forth so much energy to be accepted by someone and to keep people around, because it just all ends up in the same thing. I end up burnt out, exhausted, and alone, and they continue to live out their life, and they end up cutting me off because I didn't have something or I wasn't enough in a certain area, and they just end up cutting me off and finding somebody better. And I just get really, really tired of that. I get tired of exhausting myself to keep people around and to feel accepted by people. So I'm no longer doing that. And I'm just at a point where I'm like, you know what? If I'm meant to be alone, if I'm meant to just not have people, then that's just what it is. I'm not gonna force it. I'm not gonna keep trying. I'm tired. And I can see that Denia is also tired. She's probably tired of that as well. She's sitting up here literally studying other women to try and make her husband like her. I can imagine how exhausting that was for her, and I'm sure that she's happy that she doesn't have to do that anymore. Even though it was forced out of her life, even though she was forced to not have to do that anymore. But I'm positive that she's looking back now and she's thanking God that she was removed from that situation, even if it wasn't of her own doing. And so, yeah, sorry, I got a little emotional because, again, this topic really hits home for me, and it's why I don't really like it when people try to push dating onto me, because it's like, y'all have no idea how much this has affected my self-esteem, my mental health. Like, I am exhausted. I am tired of just trying to convince anybody of anything. If you don't see my worth and if you don't see my value as it is, I'm not gonna sit here and try to prove it to you. I'm not. And to me, it's just not worth doing that anymore. And so I've tapped out. At this point, someone will literally have to come walking to me, because I'm not gonna continue to try and like put myself out there and try to make myself seem a certain way. It is what it is. If it's meant to be, it'll be. If I am meant to be in another relationship, it'll happen. But I'm not gonna force it. I'm not gonna put energy towards it, and I'm just not gonna try. It's gonna just have to happen organically, because I'm not going to put effort into it. I'm not gonna go on. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I have been on dating apps for the past couple of months, but that's been hit or miss, and I'm probably gonna end up deleting those apps too. I've really just been doing it out of boredom at this point, because I'm just kind of over the dating apps. I'm over it. Like, I'm over all of it. Like, it's just the lack of effort, the lack of interest, and even just all these gender wars that have been going on online. It's just so bad out here. Like, people just, they just don't value like love and loyalty anymore. Like, people just care about superficial things. They don't care. They don't care about who you are at your core. They don't care about how you show up for them and how much, energy you put into your relationship, and how much you do for them, and how much you build them up and put your best foot forward and prioritize them. Like, it's like you do all of that to get what? To get hurt, to get cheated on, to get left for somebody else. Like, I'm over it. The biggest lesson that I've learned this year is that you can't love somebody into loving you. You can't. And you can't make somebody want to be with you. You can't. Like, and not that I was even trying. Like I said, I thought that there was potential there. I was being told and fed lies to make me think that person still had feelings for me and could still see something with me. But it just all turned out to be a lie. And so, yeah, It literally, it does not matter. You literally could literally break your back for somebody. It doesn't matter. People don't value it. People don't value true love and true loyalty nowadays. They do not. People will pick up and go to the next person regardless of what you've done for them. And so it is what it is. And I wish Denia the best. I feel like this video went from me talking about her situation to talking about my situation, but I just needed to get that out. Yeah, I've been holding my tongue for a long time, and there's been a lot of things that have transpired over the past couple of months that it's really been taking a toll on me. And again, out of me trying to be loyal and me trying to be a nice person, I bit my tongue on a lot of things, but now I'm gonna start speaking my truth. Hey y'all, so my video had stopped filming and got corrupted. And so, yeah, I'm going to just finish out the video. If you guys are seeing this, then that means I was able to recover the video, which hopefully, because I'm going to be really upset if I filmed a whole hour-long video and it didn't save. And so if you're seeing this, that means I was able to recover it and you guys are seeing it. And if not, then this video probably won't see the light of day because I honestly don't have it in me to refilm this whole entire video. And so yeah, I'm gonna just wrap it up. But yeah, like I said, I wish the best for Denia and her healing, and and I'm really interested to see like where this next chapter takes her. But yeah, if you guys enjoyed this video, if you guys disagree with anything that I said, let me know in the comments down below. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you guys go ahead and give it a big thumbs up, and please don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and I will see you guys in the next video.